Hey guys, and welcome back to Inspired by Jerica Brochet, and welcome back to the Zodiac Signs mini-series. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. I have a few different things that I do on my channel, and there is an introduction video here that you can watch. If I can remember, I'll link it down below, but if not, just go to the main page and you will see it. If you are returning subscribers, thank you so much for watching my content. And if this is the first video of the Zodiac series that you are seeing, welcome. But I definitely recommend that you go back and listen to the Aries and Libra video. So we are doing a 6-week mini series journeying through the Zodiac signs, and we are going through the signs by their polarity. So I have been releasing 2 videos per week for this each sign and its polarity sign. So we kicked things off with Aries and we did the polarity sign, which is Libra. So those are the 2 that we've done so far. And yes, for the sake of progression, I definitely recommend that you go back and watch those videos if you haven't. But just in case, I'm going to give you guys a really quick introduction. My name is Jerica Brochet, and I am an integrative healing arts practitioner, an astrologer, and a certified Reiki master in the Usui method for Reiki Rojo. So I love energy healing and all things metaphysical. And so, yeah, that's me. You'll get a little bit more of that at the end of the video. But today, let's continue through the Zodiac. So I am going to still do a quick introduction for you guys, and not the introduction I just did, an introduction to astrology and the signs. And it's going to be really quick. So for those that are continuing, look in the description box below and I'll have a timestamp for you to be able to skip this part. So for those of you who are new, we are journeying through the Zodiac, as I mentioned, and I want to point out that we are doing this from a traditional astrology perspective. So I will only be using the 5 main planets, which is Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn, and then of course the 2 luminaries, the sun and the moon. So the 7 of those together are the only stars that we are going to be recognizing in this series. So you will not hear any rulership from Pluto, Uranus, or Neptune. Okay, that is more of a modern take, and we are doing a more traditional take. All right, so now that I got that out the way, let's do this quick introduction to astrology. And this is just what it means to me and how I view astrology. So it's not canon or anything, it's just my perspective. So, take it or leave it. But astrology derives from the Greek word astro, meaning star, and logos, meaning language, knowledge, or information. So essentially, astrology is the language of the stars, or the information or knowledge that we receive from the stars. Astrology studies the correlation between the movement of the celestial bodies in the heavens, or the planets, and the terrestrial events on Earth. And it operates under the universal law of correspondence. So if you are familiar with the universal laws, or maybe the Hermetic principles, I believe there are 7 of them, then you may be familiar with that axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without. And the idea there is that the universe is basically one whole system. And within that system are lesser wholes that function and correlate to the greater whole. So it's sort of like a mirroring effect. And I believe that astrology definitely operates within that principle. And then lastly, whatever is born or done at a particular moment in time inherently has the qualities of that moment. And so astrology describes the nature of those moments. And in the past videos, I have mentioned the example of like going to a wine tasting. So if you go to a wine tasting, like the expert or the wine connoisseur will be able to tell you the year that the wine was made. They'll be able to tell you maybe the vineyard or what part of the world that the wine came from. And basically your astrology chart does something like that, by telling you or being able to describe the nature of the moment that you took your first breath or the moment that you were born. So, in regards to a quick introduction for the signs, the zodiac derives from the Greek word zodiakos, which means circle or circle of small animals. The signs are birthed from a combination of interactions between the four elements, which produce the four seasons, and the modalities in which they operate. And you will see those interactions and how they are interrelated as we go throughout the video. So we know that there are four seasons, and each season has a beginning, middle, and transition. And that beginning, middle, and transition, those phases are what we call modality in astrology. And so the combination of the four seasons plus the three modalities is what's going to give you the 12 zodiac signs. And contrary to popular belief, the signs are not the stars of the show, okay? But they do spice things up and they do add flavor to your birth chart. However, they are just the flavor or the environment in which the true stars, which are the planets, are actually doing their thing. Okay. So without the planets, we have nothing to express. But the signs do offer a mode of expression and colors the expression of the planets and where they are in your birth chart. So, today, you guys, we are talking about Taurus. So, last week we had a fire and air sign, both cardinal in modality. And so, this week we are getting into a earth and water sign. So, Taurus and Scorpio, and they are under the modality which we tend to call fixed or solid. So let's look at the big four for Taurus. So, in regards to gender, Taurus is a yin or a feminine sign. In regards to its element, it belongs to the earth element. The modality is fixed or solid. And the ruler of Taurus, planetary ruler of Taurus, is Venus. So, let's break down the yin quality because last week both of those signs were yang. So, yin is very internal. It's going to be more so of the hidden, things that are more subtle and not so easily seen. It is going to be repressive. It's going to be receptive and a bit guarded. So you'll notice when it comes to yin or the feminine quality, there is definitely a need for security, right? Whereas the yang is going to be more expressive. It's going to be active. It wants to go get and to go do things. Whereas yin energy is going to be more on the receptive side, it wants to receive things. So even if you consider like yin and yang in regards to the anatomy of the human being, the male's anatomy is outward, right? And then the woman's anatomy is inward. So there's definitely that balance there. And if you've ever seen the yin and yang symbol, you know what I mean, right? So, even something that is dominant in yang energy is going to have a little bit of yin. And where you have the dominance of yin energy, you're going to have a little bit of yang. Okay. So there are no absolutes. And I know that the world likes to teach us that there are, but all truths are half truths, right? So you're going to see a little bit of that yin in the yang, and you're going to see a little bit of that yang within the yin. But in regards to duality and the polarity of things, it is those differences, the extreme differences, as to why we can recognize masculine from feminine or yin from yang, expressive versus repressive, or internal versus external. It's the stark differences as to why we're able to determine the differences between the two. So yeah, yin, repressive, receptive, internal, guarded, wanting security, absorbent, and takes things in. And like I said, these energies are going to come off a little bit more subtle. So when we're talking about the earth and water signs, signs, sometimes it can get a little bit tricky to even describe or explain them because it's not as radiant or out there, expressively noticeable as yang energy. So this is gonna be fun. But yeah, like that's yin, right? So let's get into earth. Earth is gonna be solid, it's slow. Like think about how long it takes for, a seed to sprout or for something that you've planted to grow, right? Like Earth takes time, so it's very slow. It's cold and dry. It's going to be contracted and non-molding. So, it's going to have that rigidity and stability to it, right? Earth can be a little bit detached because of that cold quality. There's a tenseness to it because of the dry quality, which makes it resistant. And if you remember, the Aries sign also has the passive quality of dry. And so where you will see some similarities between Aries and Taurus is that tenseness in the drying part of them that makes them resistant to things. Earth is also immovable. I mean, it's Earth, right? Like try to move a mountain, it's no, it is where it is, right? And solid. So, as I mentioned, it's kind of unshakable in that way. And earth is generated from the temperament qualities of cold and dry. So we talked about the dry a little bit. Let's go into some of the cold. The cold influence on the earth element, or that's birthed from the earth element, is what's going to give Taurus that contracting and dense quality. It's going to be absorbent, because if you think about it, right, water, it gets absorbed when it hits earth. So there's an absorbent quality that cold offers, but it's very dense, meaning that there's a heaviness to earth, right? Think about how heavy earth it can be. If you were to dig up some earth, my goodness, there's definitely some weight to it. It definitely kind of pulls down, and so does the water element. There's an ability to just kind of, there's a pulling. I'm trying to get the right words together, you guys, off the fly here, off the top of my head. But I think you get what I'm saying, right? That as far as like density and there being weight to earth. And as we mentioned, the dry part is what adds the resistance and the rigidity, that hardness to an earth sign, and definitely to the expression of Taurus. Now, earth signs they do carry the melancholic temperament, and I haven't talked about the those temperaments yet, I don't think, in any of the videos. I think this is the first one, but you do have 4 temperaments in astrology. So you have phlegmatic, you have melancholic, you have sanguine, and choleric. So the earth element carries the melancholic temperament, and that is what gives the earth element a focus on practicality and functionability. And you'll kind of see that expressed in other earth signs, actually. When you think of Capricorn and Virgo, they also tend to have a focus on practicality and the functioning of something. So it's like, does something work? Whatever you are putting your energy into, is it practical? Does it make sense? Is it resourceful in some sort of way, or useful? And you'll see that theme throughout the earth signs, Capricorn and Virgo as well. They want to know at the end of the day, does it work? Is there purpose to its existence and functionability? And Taurus has that. Taurus has that as well. And you'll also see that when we consider the difference between Venus ruling Libra versus Venus ruling Taurus. That piece is in there as well. Now, Taurus season is the culmination or the middle of spring. This is the thick of spring. We learned in the Aries video with the spring equinox, Aries ushers in spring as a cardinal sign. So it gets things up and running for Aries. But then by the time Taurus season comes around, Taurus season is going to make the temperatures a lot more reliable and stable. Taurus season, we can look at the temperatures and have an understanding of the average of what spring feels like, or the essence of what pure spring energy and temperature, actually feels like. So that gives consistency, and that comes from the fixed modality of Taurus. So that's going to give Taurus attributes of being able to maintain things or to have follow through. So, whereas Aries and Libra, being air and fire signs, tend to lack follow through, earth signs are very dependable. They're going to have that follow through and that consistency, that stability. And it has the ability to conserve things, which gives it a lasting effect, right? And so, although the earth element in and of itself has the cold and dry qualities, we have to remember that during spring or during Taurus season, coming off of the spring equinox from Aries, we know that heat is increasing at this time of year, because ever since the spring equinox, we know that our days are getting longer, right? And our nights are getting shorter. So there is an increase of heat as the sun is gaining light coming from winter. So the fact that the heat is increasing, this adds warmth to the Taurus season. And so even though, yes, it has those cold and dry qualities, that increase of heat during that time of the year is what adds that warmth and coziness to Taurus. And so Taurus season also becomes a time of growth and fertility. And Taurus energy often reminds me of the Empress card in tarot. So things are fertile, things are going to grow. Like I said, the thick of spring. So we're seeing abundance of growth and the ability for things to multiply and add more. And during this time of year, this is where the earth is just so abundant. Everything is growing in abundance, it's sprouting. We are seeing life come back to the earth when we're talking about Taurus season. So Taurus season is definitely very rejuvenating for the earth. And this is probably why the moon actually is exalted in the sign of Taurus, because the moon is also very fertile and is about the body. And I think that that's why the moon likes to have her time in the sign of Taurus as well, that fertility and rejuvenation that the sun brings in. So moving into the planetary ruler for Taurus, which is Venus. Venus also possesses the hot and moist qualities, which is similar to that of air when we talked about it in the Libra video. So it is also her influence on Taurus that promotes the attributes of growth and fertility, and that also adds that warmth to Taurus. And so Venus is going to bring cohesion. She is about attraction. She's about harmony, bringing things together, pleasure and love, beauty, beauty. I'm sorry, beauty, sensuality, and peace. So we can definitely already see Venus's influence, as well as that the feminine or the yin energy, the earth energy, and then the modality. The influence of all of those, when we bring all of that together and consider all of that, that is where we get the essence of Taurus. So if you haven't already extrapolated some of the attributes that I've mentioned when we broke down the big four, hopefully you have begun to resonate with the Taurus energy. And if you have the sun in Taurus, meaning that you would be considered a Taurus, or maybe the ascendant or the moon there, or if you just have a lot of planets in the sign of Taurus, I'm hoping that you are resonating with some of these attributes or some of these keywords. So again, we're taking the yin aspect. We're taking the element of earth into play here, the modality being fixed, and Venus as the planetary ruler to get the essence of describing what Taurus energy is. So Taurus energy then becomes very dependable. It can be a little bit reserved, so it can be maybe a little bit skeptical or hesitant, or maybe cautious towards things, which can lead to the next keyword, stubborn. Stubbornness, it tends to be like the main relatable keyword with Taurus energy. And it is very true, and that's that earth and that cold quality, coming through. Taurus energy can be very defensive or possessive. Again, that is that resistance, okay, that comes from the dryness where it resists certain things. And that's what gives it that stability. Its ability to resist is what makes it so stable, and we're able to trust that stability because of that resistance. So yeah, Taurus energy can be a little bit defensive. It's going to defend its place. Now, because it is yin and feminine, meaning it's more receptive and a little bit more on the passive side, once pushed against a wall, you're going to see that bull come out. You're going to see that defensiveness take place, right? Or act out. And then that possessiveness is because of all of the hard work that Taurus may put into something it wants to own. The fixed energy of Taurus is what gives it that staying ability. And in staying ability can come possessive a little bit, where you feel like you own something, it stays with you. Taurus can be very patient. Again, earth energy is slow moving. So there is a patience, especially because of that melancholic influence of wanting things to be functional and practical. You're going to need patience. And Taurus is willing to be patient if it means it's going to get the outcome that it wants. And so then practical with quality. And this is what makes Taurus, as far as being ruled by having co-rulership with Libra energy, Libra and Taurus being ruled by Venus. Venus is what Taurus energy wants quality, versus Libra energy that may be more so in regards to the aesthetics or the luxury of how something looks. Taurus is going to be more concerned with how something operates and functions. And also is going to want it to be comfortable. It's still ruled by Venus, so it needs to have the creature comforts that Taurus likes. Taurus energy can be very nurturing and sensual, and we know that this comes from that Venusian influence. Venus likes things to be sensual, and being that Taurus is an earth sign, the five senses are important. So touch and smell and sight, and Taurus energy is going to depend upon the five senses more so than any of the other signs. And that's what can make it a little bit more on the reserved end of things. So whereas a water, air, or even fire signs can be a lot more imaginative or dreamy and willing to explore possibilities, Taurus energy is not so much. They want to know for certain, that's the earth element, right? They want to know for sure that it is going to be what it is going to be, right? So there can be a tendency to lack dreaming and coming out of things just being matter of fact. Planets visiting Taurus's domain tend to act more cautiously. They're going to move more slowly, unwavering. So you can imagine that, a planet like Mars can be a little frustrated in Taurus because it's a Venus rule sign and their signs tend to, be opposite of each other. And, it's that need for security for Taurus. And so planets that are in the sign of Taurus gonna kind of want that security, whereas, like I mentioned, a planet like Mars doesn't need all that. They just want to act on it and they just want to get out there and go. And so Taurus is gonna slow that down a bit. Planets in Taurus will require a little bit more security. They may be a little bit more stubborn and unwavering, a little bit set in their ways, or a little bit stuck in some instances, but they will be whatever is produced, Taurus, whatever is produced by Taurus is going to be sustainable and it's going to be long lasting. And so consider, do you have the sun, moon, or your ascendant in Taurus? You will probably resonate with a lot of these characteristics more so than anything, or a person who has a lot of planets in the sign of Taurus will definitely resonate with this type of energy. So, Taurus can be a little bit predictable and just not too keen to change things. And that's the fixed modality, is the ability to maintain something versus to actually change something. And if we even throw in medical astrology, Taurus is said to govern or rule the neck area. And so Taurus energy can be very supportive, and they tend to like, think of the earth, right? The earth supports everything on it. Your house is supported by earth. The cars and the cars that we drive, the roads that are paved, everything is supported by earth. And so the neck supporting the head is very important. We would be some very interesting beings if we didn't have the support of our neck to hold our heads up, right? So, it's that earth energy and that supportive energy that's going to hold up the ideas and the things that the mind can produce. So, I think that's all I have as far as the essence of energy, essence of Taurus. Sorry, the energy of Taurus. I do want to add too, wherever you have Taurus in your chart may also be one of the more stubborn areas. So you'll definitely have to see what house Taurus falls on, and that may be an area in your life where it's hard for you to change, or you lack flexibility and you're a little bit stubborn and possessive or protective in that area. Okay, so getting into the polarity for Taurus, the polarity sign would be Scorpio, which is a water sign. So when we're talking about polarities, we know that polarities are just two sides of the same coin. So there are things that appear to be opposite or contradictory, but they're really just two extremes of that same thing, which makes them identical in nature, but then they differ in degree. And the zodiac signs definitely show us polarity in the most beautiful way. And so we'll talk about how Taurus and Scorpio are the same, and then how they are different. So we know that what links Taurus and Scorpio is the fact that they are both yin signs and they are both fixed signs. So if you go back to some of the key words that we mentioned when talking about yin or feminine energy and fixed or solid energy, we know that both Taurus and Scorpio are going to have that stubbornness. Both Taurus and Scorpio are going to be a little bit possessive. They're both going to be more internal, and they tend to hold on to things. They don't really care to change in a lot of ways. So that is where Scorpio and Taurus are a lot alike. But then where they are different is mainly because of their element, water for Scorpio, earth for Taurus, and because of their planetary rulers. Scorpio is ruled traditionally by Mars, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so they are opposite because of that, right? So with Scorpio, you're going to have it is a little bit fiery, even though it's a water sign, and that's just because of the influence of Mars, you know. So there can be a tendency for Scorpio energy to stir up a little bit of drama. They may, you know, Mars likes to have something to fight for, you know. It can be very warrior-ish type energy. Yet in a water sign like Scorpio, it's going to move more like a ninja, but still attacking at the end of the day, right? A warrior or, you know, a fighter and a ninja are both doing the same things. They just have different approaches to it. And so, yeah, Scorpio is going to be in the realm of feelings. It's a water sign, and it lacks a container. So, one thing that Taurus actually offers Scorpio is form and boundaries, which water signs tend to lack. Now, of all the water signs, Scorpio definitely would have the most boundaries, you know, versus Cancer and Pisces, but it's still water sign nonetheless. So the Taurus aspect brings in a container to uh, give a ending point to the depth of Scorpio. Scorpio definitely likes to go deep and the waters go deep, but that Taurus energy kind of adds a floor to that ocean. You know what I'm saying? To say, all right, there has to be an ending point here, you know, somewhere. And I love that. And then for Taurus, Scorpio being water brings in some imagination and vulnerability to explore feelings. And because it's Earth, Taurus energy may have a tendency to just hold on to their feelings and they're not being expressed. Remember, both Taurus and Scorpio are yin feminine signs. So the repression is real. But the difference is that Scorpio is willing to explore the waters. Matter of fact, they want to dive head first into the waters of their feelings and emotions, whereas Taurus is going to be a bit more resistant to that. And they're going to have a little bit of a struggle with exploring their feelings and getting deep into their emotions. And so the water definitely softens up Taurus a little bit, to be a little bit more receptive to change and flow, and to be okay with being vulnerable and swimming in the waters of your feelings sometimes, and being a little bit more compassionate for the sake of feeling, and not just because there has to be some sort of practical rule or reason behind being soft, you know? So for Taurus, you know, if they don't have a reason to be soft, they probably, you know, don't want to be. And Scorpio's going to challenge that a little bit. So those are some ways in which Scorpio and Taurus energy are a lot alike, and how they are also very different to each other. So let's talk about where you may have Taurus energy in your chart. As always, you guys, I just want to mention that the glyphs are backwards on the chart, which I do apologize for. It's just because of how I have to flip the graphic in order to get Taurus to be rising on the chart. So we have a Taurus rising chart here. And so we are going to go through each of the signs by your rising. Okay, so even though you have the Taurus rising visual right here, the breakdown that you're seeing on the right side of the screen is based on your rising sign. Okay, so when we go over Aries, I'm talking about Aries rising. All right. So let's get started. Okay, so if you have Aries rising, you are going to have Taurus on the second house of resources, earnings, spending habits, and value. So for Aries rising, you may be very, very particular about how you spend your money. You may want to spend your money more on quality than just luxury. You want the things that you spend your money on to have purpose and functionability, and something that you actually value or that means a lot to you. Or you could be a little bit stubborn with your money, right? If you are a Taurus rising, then of course you're going to have this on your first house of personality. Your behavior will be very Taurus like. You know, really how you view the world and how you interact with the world comes from a very Taurus or Taurian aspect. And you're going to also see this reflected in your vitality and your health. For Gemini rising, you're going to see Taurus energy on the 12th house of the shadow self. Okay. So for Gemini rising, there is a more private part of you that may exhibit Taurus qualities and how you think more so internally, more of a unconscious parts of yourself. And this can also be the the place of undoing, the 12th house, a self undoing. And so Taurus energy is where so you may be a little bit more stubborn. So in the 12th, having it on the 12th, you may see like the more challenging characteristics of Taurus to be expressed. For Cancer rising, you're going to have Taurus on your 11th house of groups and friends in your social interactions. So this is another reason why Cancer energy tends to be considered, you know, very nurturing. They have Taurus on the house of groups and friendships. So they're going to have that nurturing and sensible aspect. And there can be a little bit of stubbornness too, you know, in there. So the positive, and I don't like to say negative, I prefer to say more challenging. So challenging and more easygoing aspects of the 11th house for you, Cancer rising, you're going to see both of those to play out. For Leo rising, you are going to have Taurus energy on the 10th house of career, public self, reputation, and responsibility. So Taurus energy on the 10th, this is definitely going to be people who maybe work in healthcare or areas that are going to be where they are okay with being of service to others, where it could be in agriculture or, you know, building things or creating things that's going to have some sort of functionability and practicality to it. Maybe an herbalist or something like that, right? A gardener, or, you know, maybe you make tinctures, or maybe some sort of healing practice could be good for a person who has Leo rising. For Virgo rising, you're going to see Taurus energy on your house of spirituality. This is the 9th house, long distance traveling, philosophy, and higher learning. So, you know, for you, you may be the kind of person who believes what they believe and they stick to their beliefs. You know, maybe animism is something that works for you, which more earth based beliefs, or spirituality that is very grounded in nature, some sort of spirituality that you feel like you can depend on. For a Libra rising, you're going to have Taurus energy on the 8th house. And so this is other people's stuff. This is shared resources in the inner mind. So, you know, you may be a little bit stubborn with sharing sometimes, or maybe hard for you to share, or maybe you're the type of person that just wants to make sure that you are protected and taken care of, and that you're not going to be taken advantage of. So there can be, you know, you may have good boundaries around your finances or things that you have to share with other people. For Scorpio rising, you're going to have this on the 7th house, Taurus energy on the 7th, which is your relationship to other people and your commitments. You are definitely going to be in the a relationship for the long haul if you can help it. You know, you may struggle with when to give up or to tap out of a relationship because there's this loyalty and just a sense of commitment there. For Sagittarius rising, you're going to have Taurus energy on the 6th house of your daily routines, the work that you may do. This is maybe what you do for a living that, you know, just pays the bills. And so, you know, you could, similar to like the Leo rising, you know, maybe you work in healthcare or some sort of altruistic field of work. And you may It's possible to struggle with authority a little bit, you know, having to answer to other people. So maybe for the Sagittarius rising, you may prefer to be an entrepreneur or something like that, where you pave your own way. For Capricorn rising, this is going to be your fifth house of creativity, self-expression, risky stuff, and casual sex. So poor Capricorn risings, because of that earth element, the fact that you are already a Capricorn and earth rising, and then to also have an earth sign on your area of self-expression, sometimes you may feel a little stuck, maybe writer's block, or maybe you're a little bit stubborn with expressing yourself and trying new things. So Capricorn rising, you got to be able to have some flexibility and to try something new. Everything doesn't have to be traditional, okay? For the Aquarius rising, you're going to see this on the fourth house of family and home, the private self, you know, and your upbringing may have had a very traditional Taurian flair to it. So maybe your parents, maybe you were well provided for, or maybe things were just predictable in the home. Maybe you're a little bit more predictable, you know, because Aquarius has the reputation of just being out there and outgoing. But, you know, privately or at home, they may prefer things to be a little bit more predictable, because when they're out in the world, they're a little bit more eccentric. And for Pisces rising, you're going to have a Taurus energy on your third house of information, and how, you know, how you receive information, how you give out information, your local environment, and siblings. So, you know, a Pisces rising may really like a close-knit, tight community. They may have daily rituals that they don't like to change from. You know, maybe they like to eat at a certain time. You know, maybe there's something about your schedule that you don't really care to deviate from. Or maybe you have siblings that you have more of a Taurus energy or Taurus type of relationship with. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I apologize, you guys. I can see that this video is already a bit longer than some of the other ones, but isn't that Taurus energy? Things take a longer time. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Jerica Brochet, and I am an astrologer, a certified Usui Reiki master, a certified integrative healing arts practitioner, and I do consider myself a spiritual maven. If you have checked out other videos besides the astrology ones on my channel, then you know what I'm talking about. But I want you guys to get to know yourself energetically. And so at this time, I am offering a simple 30 to 45-minute personality analysis of the chart, your birth chart. I am still tweaking this type of reading, so it's possible that it could be a little bit longer. But to book with me, definitely read the description box below, because I'll have the information and instructions there. And definitely follow me on social medias. Okay, you can see me on Instagram at msjerib, and I've got it right there on the screen for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you have not watched the air and fire signs of Aries and Libra, please do. Because remember, even though we're doing this by polarity, there is also progression to it as well, okay? And later this week, you will see the video for the polarity sign, which is Scorpio. So stay tuned. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.